What stopped you from ending your own life? Doorbell kept ringing while I was trying to overdose. Got annoying. Answered because it was around the time my neighbor usually had their shopping delivered and wanted to do one last good deed by accepting the delivery. Turns out it was some friends checking in on me. Never been in exactly in your spot, but I've had some friends call when shit was really dark for me. Like they're on the other side of the country with no idea where I'm at, haven't talked in years, and then just out of the blue a phone call. Kinda makes me cry. One time, I randomly called a former high school friend just to catch up. It turns out that I reached out when she was in a similar place. She says you saved her life. Now, it is like 15 years later, and she is happily married with kids. I still don't know what drove me to make that random phone call. I am the only person who regularly visits my mom who lives in a nursing home. You are a certified G. I just cannot get past my mom wasting away alone. She suffers from schizophrenia and bipolar already. Losing me would end her for sure. Gotta find another reason for when the inevitable occurs. Perhaps making her proud or honoring her by living as best you can. Yes, that is the goal. I know the inevitable will happen, and I'm going to try my best to not let myself spiral. The fear of not doing it right, and existing in an even worse state that I am. Yeah, I feel that. I read horror stories about failed attempts that made people paralyzed and unable to express their distress. That is what I fear more than dying. I tripped when I tried jumping off a cliff and landed a couple feet down. Not too badly hurt, but just laughing at how silly and dumb it was, and how I couldn't even kill myself right. Lay there for like 15 minutes and then got up and just went home. I didn't feel better, but I just didn't feel like killing myself anymore. It was a weird experience. Tried to hang myself, didn't tie the knot right, fell hard on my ass. Felt so embarrassed even though no one but me would ever know. I has a moment where I was very close to jumping off my balcony. I realized I could be dead, or I could just do whatever I had always wanted to do because it wouldn't matter if it all went to shit if the alternative was to be dead. Quit my job a couple days later and changed my career. Kickstarted the few years that changed my life forever. 7 years later, I'm sober, thriving, taking my meds every day, and have the best partner ever. I'm not going to pretend my mental health is always perfect, but I've come a long way. Hey Sauce, thanks for your comment. I forget some days that we can do whatever the heck we want. Ending it is an option, but doing whatever we want is equally an option. Shortly before committing to it, I realized I hadn't exhausted all my options at the time. I'm glad I did. I often thought about it, but always said to me, F it, just one more day. I did it day after day and somehow something changed. I began to see more and more positive things in life. Procrastination really does pay off. Glad things have improved for you. Pure spite. If you give in, the haters win. Yeah, fuck that. In the words of Kratos, death can have me when it earns me. My cat. I was about to jump out the window of my 23rd floor apartment when my cat put his paw on my leg and meowed at me. He looked so concerned, so I ended up sitting on the floor, hugging him while he purred his huge furry heart out. Living wasn't easy for many years after that, but that cat stayed by my side through everything. When he passed away at the age of 19, 17 years after he saved my life, a part of me left with him, but I'm so grateful for what he did for me. He gave you one of his 9 lives. Gonna sound incredibly dumb compared to the rest of these answers, but a video game. I was setting up a date, packing up to make it easier for my parents when they come down to empty my place, tying loose ends, etc. Then a game I had pre-ordered like a year ago came out. I said, hey, why not? Just a few more days. I had fallen in love with the previous titles, so I wanted to see the new one. A few days into playing the game, I answered an LFG post on Reddit, met a friend, and few more after that. Spent a lot of time playing the story, and the multiplayer with my new friends, and eventually I forgot about my plans. A few months later, it dawned on me. I realized I didn't want to kill myself, and I didn't want to live that way. 6 years later, still here. Still best friends with the OP of the LFG post. Edit. Since some wonders, it's Mass Effect Andromeda. I didn't say it because not many shares my love for this game, and I didn't want unsolicited opinions, Elmao. The original trilogy basically kept me from drinking myself to death. I was drinking a bottle of whiskey a day, drinking at work, drinking in the car to and from work. Every second I wasn't passed out, I was drunk. Then, saw my roommate playing Me Too, got hooked watching him play, then started my first trilogy run. That was 12 years ago, and every time those thoughts become too much to bear, I start another playthrough. It's a world full of friends and where everything is in my control. Video games don't always get the respect they deserve, from a mental health standpoint. Wishing you the best, Commander Shepard. I was going through a rough patch about 10 years ago, and living on my own. I started buying enormous dildos and hiding them in my belongings, which meant that if I ever did anything hasty, my friends and family would find them. As a straight guy who was pretty insecure at the time, That thought alone was enough to keep me from doing anything. I would add a new one once or twice a week, and by the time I was 3 weeks in, I didn't even know where they all were hidden anymore, which meant there was absolutely no way I could trust that I'd found them all before doing anything to myself. No matter how dark things got, that insecurity kept me from making a permanent decision and bought me the time to convince myself to start therapy. Damn dildos out here doing God's work. It worked, LOL. I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for that absolutely unhinged decision. Sand hippies doing full moon yoga in the middle of nowhere desert. I left my dog with a close friend and walked out there for reasons. They saw me and invited me to join. Even had an extra yoga mat for me to use. It was a very bizarre, life-saving moment of compassion and community. Don't report me. This was a long time ago, and things are much better. Thanks, sand hippies. The idea of someone planning to end their life but somehow ending up doing yoga with a bunch of hippies in the desert instead is so odd yet touching. Sounds like a scene straight off of a TV show. God or crazy luck. Take your pick. I prayed and asked for a sign that I shouldn't kill myself, and when none came, I loaded my gun, pressed it to my head, and pulled the trigger. It did not fire. Turns out, I had bought faulty ammunition with a dud primer. I took it as the sign I was looking for and started working on my mental health and building my life for better days. Glad you are still here.